Dwarves of Tantua. Chapter 1. Chorus. The town of Kebu lay nestled between the dense jungle and the towering shadow of the mountain known as Tantua. The people of Kebu, merchants, farmers, blacksmiths, went about their days unaware of the hidden secrets buried within the mountain. The mountain, looming large over the town, had a mystical allure. It was known to the locals as a place of untold mysteries and forgotten tales, whispered only by those brave enough to believe in such things. The tavern, situated at the heart of the town near the slow-moving river, was bustling with life that evening. It was a common gathering place for locals and travelers alike, a place where stories were shared over mugs of honey beer. Near the hearth sat Chorus, an old man draped in a long, tattered robe that had once been brown but had faded with time. His silver hair was long and unruly, and his face bore the marks of age, deep wrinkles, a full, unkempt beard, and eyes that seemed far too sharp for a man of his years. He wore a leather hat that had seen better days, with a few crystals hanging from a rope tied around his waist. His voice, however, was as strong as ever. "And so, they found him," Karas said, his eyes darting across the room, locking with each listener for just a moment before moving on. "Not just dead. No, not simply torn apart by some wild beast. The great ogre rooster he was, emptied. His skin was all that remained, like a hollow sack left on the ground." "Here we go again," a thin man with a longbow at his side muttered loudly. The archer was seated at the bar, his expression full of skepticism as he listened with a raised brow and an exaggerated sigh. His eyes flicked between Karas and the other patrons, looking for anyone else who shared his disbelief. "You old fool, no one believes your tales. You're drunk on your own nonsense." A few others chuckled under their breath, nodding along with the archer's words. But Chorus, undeterred, continued. "Rooster was a terror, an ogre unlike any other. 10 feet tall, his body was covered in matted fur that reeked of sulfur, his horn curved and sharp, glistening in the moonlight. He roamed the edges of the jungle for decades, terrorizing anyone who ventured too close. His strength was legendary, able to tear trees from the ground as if they were mere saplings." The firelight flickered across the faces of the patrons, casting long shadows on the walls. In a quiet corner of the tavern, Henrik sat with his companions. The warrior from Kipt was a towering figure, his caramel-colored skin gleaming in the light of the hearth. His dark eyes were deep and serious, his muscular frame wrapped in leather and chainmail, marking him as a soldier of great experience. Beside him sat 4 other warriors, all members of Kipt's elite, their eyes fixed on Karas as the old man wove his tale. Henrik was not one to believe in idle stories, but something about the old man's words seemed to resonate. He watched carefully, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword, while his mind wandered to the mission that had brought him here. The threat of the unkind loomed large over Kipt, and Henrik had been sent by the king to find allies, if they existed. At a table closer to the fire sat Jesse. The woodsman was an imposing figure, even sitting down. Standing over 7 feet tall, with broad shoulders and hands that could crush stone, he was a man known for his silence and skill. His long hair, tied back in a rough knot, framed his calm, stoic face. His clothes were simple but sturdy, worn from his work in the forests and mountains beyond the town. Jesse seldom spoke, but when he did, his words carried weight. Karas' voice lowered, drawing everyone's attention back to him. It was a night much like this one. Rooster had been spotted near the river, following a deer. The townsfolk stayed inside, knowing better than to go out when the ogre was near. But they heard it, the sound of something else in the jungle. Something stronger. The room was silent now. Even the archer, despite his earlier disdain, leaned forward slightly. Rooster was found the next morning. His body, or what was left of it, lay near the river bank. He'd been hollowed out. His skin was left in perfect condition, no blood, no bones, nothing but an empty husk. And there were footprints, small, deep prints, leading from the body toward the mountain. Koras glanced up at the ceiling as if he could see the mountain itself, looming over them. The townsfolk knew then that the mountain held more than just trees and rivers. They whispered that it was the dwarves of Tantua who had taken Rooster. They said the dwarves had returned. The archer scoffed, breaking the tension. Dwarves, is it now? What's next? Elves and dragons. He looked around the room, seeking support in his skepticism. But Henrik, now intrigued, leaned forward. Dwarves, you say? Koras met his gaze, his eyes sharp. Yes, dwarves, the people of the mountain. They've been gone for generations, but their legacy remains. The mountain bears their name, Tantua. They carved their home deep within it, and though they have not been seen in centuries, they still watch, always watching. Henrik's brow furrowed. And how did the mountain come to be called Tantua? Koras smiled, as if Henrik had asked the very question he was hoping for. The legend of Tantua dates back to the time of the giants. The mountain, you see, was once a desert, barren and desolate. A giant by the name of Tantua roamed the land in search of his lost love, Loxidos. For 10 days he wandered without food or water until he finally collapsed in despair. Loxidos, upon hearing of his fate, found him and wept at his side for 3 days. Her tears are what created the river that flows into the mountain today. The old wizard's voice took on a sad tone. Her sorrow was so great that the land itself changed. The desert became lush with life, and over time the mountain rose from the ground, as if to carry Tantua's spirit into the sky. And so the mountain was named after him, the giant who fell for love. Henrik sat back, absorbing the story. His companions exchanged glances, clearly skeptical, but Henrik sensed there was more to Karas's words than just myth. There was truth, buried somewhere beneath the layers of story. As the night wore on, the tavern emptied, and soon only Henrik, Jesse, and Karas remained. The archer had left, still grumbling about tall tales and fairy stories, and Henrik's 4 warriors had retreated outside to prepare for the morning. Henrik leaned in closer to Karas. Tell me more about these dwarves. If they're real, why haven't they shown themselves? Kipt needs allies, and from what you're saying, they could be powerful ones. Jesse, silent until now, spoke up. His deep voice cut through the quiet air. The dwarves of Tantua are real, Henrik. I've made things for them, rune-imbued items. They don't reveal themselves to just anyone. They're cautious, secretive, but they're still there, deep in the mountain. Karas nodded. Jesse speaks the truth. The dwarves remember the betrayals of men. It was during the War of Placid Mountain when they were left to fend for themselves. Since then, they've sealed themselves off from the world, trusting no one. Henrik's eyes darkened. But we're not those men. Kipt has always honored its alliances. We need them now more than ever. Karas stroked his beard thoughtfully. It won't be easy to convince them. They have their reasons for staying hidden. But perhaps, if you can prove yourself worthy, they might listen. Henrik glanced toward the door where his companions were waiting outside. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm not leaving without trying. Jesse sat back, silent once again, his presence looming like a shadow in the room. It was Karas who leaned forward, his eyes locking with Henrik's. The path to Tantua isn't one you can just stumble upon, Henrik. It's hidden, and the dwarves do not reveal their stronghold lightly. But I know the way. Henrik's eyes flicked to Karas, a hint of curiosity and gratitude in his gaze. You? How do you know the way? Kara smiled, the corner of his lips curling with a knowing look. I've studied with them before, long ago. The dwarves and I have an understanding. They trust me, at least as much as they trust any outsider. Henrik considered the old wizard's words, recognizing the weight behind them. If you can take me to them, I'll do what needs to be done to prove our worth. Kipt needs the dwarves' help. If they're as strong as you say, they could turn the tide against the unkind. Karaz stood slowly, his age evident in the creaking of his bones, but his spirit remained unbroken. I can take you to their gates. Whether or not they'll open for you, however, is another matter entirely. The dwarves of Tantua don't easily forget the betrayals of men. But you're different, Henrik. Maybe they'll see that. Henrik stood as well, towering over Karas, but his expression was one of respect. Then I'm ready. I'll leave my men outside the mountain. This is a mission for me alone. Karas smiled faintly. Good. It's best not to bring too many eyes with you. The dwarves value secrecy above all, and Jesse... Karas glanced at the woodsman who had been listening quietly. Jesse will watch over your men. He's got a talent for keeping things safe. Jesse nodded once, his massive hands resting on the table in front of him. I'll see to it that your party is taken care of. The mountain's not a safe place for strangers. Henrik gave a short nod of gratitude. Thank you, Jesse. I'll be back soon. Karas placed a hand on Henrik's shoulder. We leave at dawn. Rest while you can. The journey to Tantua is not an easy one.